G'day everyone and welcome to a very special episode of Either Side of Nhill.
As you know, we often have a focus on the art scene here at Either Side of Nhill and have featured all types of artists, including writers and authors, generally amazing creative people. We absolutely love it and we encourage it, and we'll always shine the spotlight where we can. So earlier this year, my KK present from Ben included a book, Bold Lies by Rachel Lynch. This is a story of Detective Inspector Kelly Porter, and this was book 5 in a series of 11. We've both read the book, Bold Lies, and as many of our listeners have read it and loved it and reviewed it. And this kickstarted the ESON One Book Club. It's the only one of its kind, and each person who reads it has to sign the inside cover and quote often, and there's often quotes in there on why they liked it, etc. And even one person suggested it should be made into a movie. We have
Great
got
idea.
so many great ideas. Thanks to cousin Adrian for that one. So thank you to everyone who has read it and passed it on. So it's actually up for grabs now. So yell out if you want it.
I need to send it around. Absolutely.
You do. So after much investigation, some would say a borderline stalking, we have been able to track down international author Rachel Lynch, who is currently beaming into us live from the UK. We are so incredibly excited to welcome to the podcast Rachel Lynch. Hello.
Hello from London.
Hello, Rachel.
Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. It's absolutely lovely to see you. And you are our first ever international guest.
Wow. Well, I'm privileged and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Can't wait to get some feedback from your listeners.
Yeah, well, perhaps we can read some of the comments a bit later. Absolutely. I'm holding the copy of the book in front of me right now. I have it and I need to send it on. So for those of our listeners that don't know or perhaps haven't heard of you before, Rachel, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself, whereabouts you are, and, a little bit about Rachel Lynch.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I'm living in Hertfordshire, which is just north of London. But I grew up in the beautiful Lake District, which, if you don't know the UK, it's in the north of the UK, and it's a national park. And it was actually awarded UNESCO World Heritage Site status in 2018. I think it gets about 20 or 30 million visitors a year. And it is stunning. And so I grew up on the edge of that national park. And so I think I did my first hike up one of the mountains when I was about 6. So I think you can safely say that, the mountains and the lakes are completely in my blood. And I never wanted to leave, but employment there is not the easiest thing in the world. I think, apart from sheep and working in hotels, there's not a lot else to do. It's beautiful, but it doesn't pay the bills. So I packed my case, went off to the big bad London, and I was a history teacher in London for probably about 6 years before I met my husband. And he was, and I make that sound as though, he ended everything, like my career and everything. But the reason I say that is because he was actually an army officer.
Okay.
So I started, when we got married, I started traveling with him. And I did carry on teaching for a while. But it sort of, died a natural death, really. And then it was when he was actually, he became the defense attaché for the British Embassy in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And it was when I was there that I started to write. So that's my story.
Wow.
I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not sure about Bold Lies, because I think in every book, I think you can kind of tell I've been around a bit and met lots and lots of different people, and I try and sort of, things pop into my head from stories, maybe, from Germany or Cyprus, that just pop into the story. And I do love that. And I think that, the stories revolve around people. Staying in Hertfordshire near London for 10 years now is hard. I want to pack up and move. This is not natural. In 16 years in the army, we had 13 houses. So
wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shifting around. Rachel, we've been following you on Instagram and can see that you've recently been in the Lake District. How was it?
Really a little bit of a treat because I went on my own. My husband took the children somewhere for the weekend, but they had to go, and I said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go to the district on my own." And I don't think I've ever done that. I've always been with family or friends. There's a group of 8 girls. We always go up there every autumn, and I show them round, and they absolutely love it. So this was the first time I'd actually sort of been on my own, and I was, funnily, strangely enough, I was a little bit nervous, but I planned my walks. I had great weather. There's an incredible lake called Ullswater, and it's a bit like a snake. And I walked the whole shoreline of that. It's about 13 miles. Wow. And, it was just stunning. I'd never done that before. That's the thing about the Lake District, is that even if you're from there and you've been doing it since you were 6, there's always some place to discover. Wow. Like a hidden pool, or maybe a ridge that you haven't walked. And of course the weather's always different, and you always bump into different people, so it's an incredible place. And it was I was there for 3 days, and I really sort of took a deep breath, and it re-inspired me. I thought of some more Kelly stories, and it was brilliant. Recharged.
Fantastic.
Sounds great.
That's so good. So you've given us a little bit of your background, but interested to know how long you've been writing for in that timeline that you shared with us, and what inspired you to start writing crime?
Yeah, it's a funny one because crime's my favourite genre. Well, thrillers, in general, that's always been my favourite. And to be honest with you, I didn't think I could pull it off because I had such massive respect for these authors that I was reading. But like I said, when we were in Argentina, I couldn't work because various reasons, language, security reasons. We were connected to the embassy. Excuse me. So I sat down and wrote a book, and I kept doing it. And I'm sure that every author will tell you, they got X amount of rejections before they finally got that deal. So that was 2011. And I got my agent, which is like, they're the conduit to the industry, you can go it alone, you can self-publish, but you are very much on your own.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd wait out for an agent, and I got my agent in 2016.
Oh, right.
And by then I had gone from sort of experimenting to giving crime a go. And it turns out that I'm really suited to it because I'm obviously dark and twisted. So I just...
we can tell. We can tell.
But yeah. Storylines are always a little bit dark. So I think my journey has been fairly quick, in the world of writing. Yeah. It's a brutal industry, incredibly competitive. I mean, my agent probably gets sent 20,000 manuscripts a year, and I think he takes on 1 or 2 people. So it's a brutal industry to break into. And for some reason, Kelly has just hit a note with people, and she's really popular. So I'm going to carry on writing about her as long as she sells.
Oh, that is so good. And I was going to ask you, did you always envisage that the first book would become a series? Was that in the planning in the very beginning? Rachel?
So when I met my agent, we had a little chat, and interestingly, what I'd sent him was based in London. Same characters, Kelly was in there, and when he found out I was from the Lake District, he said, there's so much crime coming out of London, fictional and real, obviously. Wouldn't it be amazing? It so well. Wouldn't it be amazing to set it in the Lake District? So I thought, okay, well, so I went away, did that, and had a few stories up my sleeve. And actually, when we pitched to publishers, I had 3 stories ready to go. So we knew it would be 3 stories. But honestly, I never imagined that I'd be, writing 12.
Unbelievable.
I'm almost finished 12 now. That'll be out next year.
So that's one a year, really, since you started.
No. I was first published in 2018.
Sorry. Oh, but you wrote the first one. Oh, okay. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, you wrote the first one in 2011, but yeah, sorry, I'm getting my timeline mixed up. Of course, 2018. Yeah, that's really compressed, isn't it?
That was the first publishing. The first published one, Dark Game. And so, what are we now? 5 years later. Yeah, so it's a little bit more, just a little bit more than 2 a year, I suppose. Some years 3.
Wow.
I know, and I'm knackered. need a break.
hence the recharge. I imagine that the Lake District would probably sit nicely somewhere between London and the little county village murder mysteries that we all know so well. So it's kind of a nice little sweet spot in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah. I get you there, because in a way, as I've gone through the series, I've really sort of started to appreciate the mountains as city blocks. You know, they're just as menacing, and you can hide probably even more in a mountain or a forest than you can in a city setting. And so I think the setting makes it a little bit more edgy and dramatic, like you say, than that cozy crime, but it's not quite a city. So yeah. I think that's what people love about it.
Yeah, and look, British murder mysteries and detective stories are massive here, huge. I mean, you know, you can watch any of it. Just my mum just watches, she loves it, and I know so many people that watch all these shows. There's a lot of them around, and it's a massive genre here. So when we talk about it being a series, you know, who knows?
We're not joking.
We're not joking.
Yeah. I'll keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the Kelly Porter series is great. Can you share with our listeners an overview of the series and the lead character?
Yeah. So the first one, Dark Game, and then the current one that I'm writing now. Where's my? I will just get the latest one to show you, because the front cover is amazing. So basically, Kelly, excuse me, Kelly was born in the Lake District. I think you probably picked that up from Bold Lies, because each one can be read as a standalone, because there's enough backstory in there.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, if you really want to get to know Kelly and understand her, I think it is good to start with Dark Game. But obviously new readers are always coming in. And so she was a bit, I guess in her backstory, without giving too much away, she felt a bit stifled, a bit small town, and going to, as she did, she moved to the Met in London, was a bit of an escape. And I guess it was her dream. It didn't quite work out how she intended, career-wise and love life-wise. And she finds herself coming back to the Lake District. So obviously that's going to be hard. And so that's her backstory without giving too much away. Bold Lies is number 5, isn't it? So sometime in the middle, really. So her, you know, people say to me her personal story is just as important as the crimes. It's kind of 50-50, really. And, you know, her personal development over the series is one that, you know, if you can, from the beginning, it's really good to follow.
That's important. Fantastic. Because the ESON Book Club is the only one in the world with the one book in it. However, look, we might have to expand it and start with Dark Game and go right back to the beginning. So we'll have to get that.
I'm just holding up. This is the latest one that's actually
unreal. Look at
that. Published. Wow.
This is an exclusive.
It's good, isn't it? It's good, isn't it?
Is that the published version?
Yeah, so these jetties are really iconic in the Lake District. And so that is the one that's coming out in July.
Beautiful. So, love the front cover. It looks really, really good. We'll share that on online. Actually, we did a little bit of promo earlier this week. So
but that must be so I'm sorry, Christy. I'm just thinking that must be so exciting, even though you've had so many already before. But when that first one shows up and it's actually an actual book, that must be an exciting moment for you.
Yeah.
And the
every
smell?
single time. Yeah. Every single time. It never, ever gets old. I never take it for granted. And my husband's a bit of a stalker. You can see behind me that he's had a lot of my covers framed. But it's so exciting, and actually the fashion changes too. So you've probably noticed that in the beginning they were very, very colourful. Now they're going a little bit more monochrome,
Yes,
darker.
Yeah.
So the publishers follow metadata on what's selling and things like that. So it's interesting to see that fashion change. But every time I get a book cover, it's like, is that me?
Oh.
Yeah, that's very exciting. We did actually have a listener question, because we've got some loyal followers who listen to our shows and they always see what's coming up, and it's from my auntie, which is Christy's mum, who actually has published. She's been part of a published book herself, so she's actually a bit of a writer. Her question was, and she said she will have an answer, I guarantee it. Why do they all have 2-word titles?
So I think for consistency, definitely. And I think once you launch a book, you don't know it's going to become a series. I mean, obviously there were 3, and I think side by side on a shelf, readers want to know what they're getting. So with the first one, Dark Game, it made absolute sense to have that monosyllabic. And I think, actually, silence, not monosyllabic, is it? But most of them are that punchy, 2-word monosyllabic. And also, I don't know whether you know, because you've started with Bold Lies, but they go in 3s. So the first 3 start with a D: Dark Game, Deep Fear, Dead End. The second 3 start with a B: Bitter Edge, Bold Lies, Blood Rights. The third 3 start with an L. So Little Doubt, Lost Cause, Lying Ways. And then the current 3, I've got Sudden Death, Silent Bones, and then Kelly 12, which I can't tell you, but it's going to start with an S.
So whatever you do, you have to write a multiple of 3.
Yeah.
So to answer your mum's question, Christy, it's totally about marketing, and to make readers comfortable, because the last thing a reader wants is to be looking on the shelf for the next one and it's got 4 words in the title. Because that just doesn't make sense. So you keep it punchy, and obviously each one is a different color as well, so they look fantastic together. And
when that's right. And when you're at the library or wherever, the bookstore, you can see them. They're easy to pick out, and you'll find your favorite author, and you just go straight for it. So
exactly,
absolutely. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, fantastic.
Totally makes sense.
Do you? It's a really hard question to ask, but do you have a favorite, or one that sort of resonates with you more than others, perhaps?
Yeah, it is so hard, and I think the answer to that is probably the one that I'm working on at the moment, because that's where all my energy and passion is.
Yeah.
But I do have a few sneaky little favourites. The one that comes after Bold Lies, you see, I love them all for different reasons. Bold Lies I loved because it's set on Derwentwater, and that coastline where you've got all the private houses, that's real. And if you're kayaking down Derwentwater, you can see that whole coastline is private, and that is actually what inspired that book, was a kayak down the lake with my children, looking at one of those houses thinking, what could go wrong in there? So the one after that, Blood Rights, it's about the occult, and that was a little favourite of mine because I love the research. So yeah, and I think this actually, the one that's coming out soon, Silent Bones, because without giving too much away, with the drought, over the last couple of years, that, worldwide has been reported. I mean, I don't know if you heard about that story that was reported from Vegas. a reservoir near Vegas was reduced. It was almost dry, wasn't it? And they started finding bodies in there that they reckon were from the mob. So that kind of planted a seed in my head. And one of the reservoirs, so the story is one of the reservoirs in Cumbria goes down quite a lot, and they find a skeleton.
Yes.
So, So I think you can tell by just my, how excited I get about talking about them, that I get excited for each different one, because each story I get really passionate about and I really research it. So I know I haven't answered that question at all.
It's fine. No, it's
but
good.
You know what? It actually segues perfectly into our next question, Rachel. And we want to understand, what is your creative process like? You've described that a little bit, but how do you build your storylines and characters?
I always start with a crime. So it could be something like I just said to you, the kayak down Derwent Water. Or the news about droughts, or my walk along the Ullswater Way on my little holiday recently. I saw 2 people in 13 miles, and there are abandoned cottages, abandoned stone sheds from probably hundreds of years ago. And I'm not thinking, isn't that lovely bird song? Or, should I take a picture of the lake? I'm thinking, could be a dead body in there. It always starts with the crime for me, and then I build everything around it, and then I build on Kelly's personal story too, and that's how it comes together. But one thing that my agent said to me in the very beginning was, put away your notes and just write from your instinct. And it's the best thing anybody's ever said to me, because I know it doesn't work for every author. I know authors who have spreadsheets and they know exactly where they are all the time, but I don't write like that. I splurge through the story, because then all the passion comes out, and then I think I can edit, at a later time. So it really is for me about that quiet space. We've got an office in the garden, which I'm sat in now, and headphones in, let the story come, have fun with the characters around Kelly and around the crime. And that's how it comes together. So that's my process, really. Probably about 4 hours a day. Any more than that, I think, is absolutely exhausting. One of my favourite quotes is a writer is working when they're staring out of the window, and that's true. So I think walking around, I'm clocking up the hours. So
and so you wouldn't
thinking.
That's fantastic. I'm picturing it now.
Same.
That sounds amazing, and I think. Because you're developing a single character's story as the main character in the series, that's a linear thing, isn't it? So you wouldn't be writing 2 or 3 at once, because you're thinking what's going to happen next with the character. So you need that to evolve. So that means you'd be focusing on one at a time rather than trying to sort of churn out more than that, I guess, even though you seem to have a fairly high work rate anyway.
And I think, the business lead times are such that at any one time, for example, from January to now has been incredibly busy. I was editing Silent Bones. I'm writing Kelly 12, and I was actually finishing my standalone, which is a complete departure from Kelly. It's a psychological thriller coming out in November. So I'll tell you a bit about that
yes, please.
Later. But So actually, there are lots of different processes going on at the same time. Unfortunately, I don't get the luxury, of one at a time.
And
it's interesting how the editing process uses a completely different part of my brain to the creative process. So they are very, very separate jobs.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's interesting. Well, perhaps you could tell us about this standalone novel that you're working on, please. So
it hasn't been launched yet, so sadly I can't show you the cover. But it's called The Rich, and it's set. It's a psychological thriller. So I wanted to try something that gave my characters a little bit more freedom, because with Kelly being a DI, she's got to follow certain rules. And obviously, you know, the model is that Kelly always wins out in the end. With a psychological thriller, I think there's lots more twists and turns and things that can happen illegally, that kind of expand my boundaries a bit. So I wanted to give it a go. And it's set in Cambridge, which I'm sure you've heard about, is near London. And I chose that because it's known for not only its history and its seat of learning, but its wealthy postcode population. And you probably guessed by the title that it's about privilege. And the main character is a psychologist, and she has several very wealthy clients, but all is not what it seems under the surface.
Oh, I love it. Love the sound of this. So good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So as soon as I am allowed to share the cover, that'll be on social media. So the launch is happening soon because it's being published in November. So
wow, that's super exciting. You've got a big, you've had a big year, having a big year.
Yeah, it has been a big year. And my daughter is going through her A levels at the minute, and my son's going through his GCSEs. So this is stress city in this house at the moment.
Yeah. I have a quick question without notice. I hope you don't mind. But when you're in the in your studio writing, do you listen to music at all?
Yeah, I do. My husband thinks I'm mad, but I stick my headphones on and listen to either chill or classic. And for some reason, it just can't. It's that calming effect that it has, and it's a bit. It's a bit like being in the mountains. There's nothing else apart from me and my ideas. So yeah, I do.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
fantastic. Yeah.
Sorry, Ben.
No, that's okay. So many questions.
Yeah.
Well, we know you said, I'm not sure, you said earlier that you haven't been to Australia yet, but what are your impressions of Australia? Do you think one of your novels could be set in Australia one day? Could Kelly Porter come down under, do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking if she goes, I go. So
it's only fair.
I might have to do a little research trip. No, I've always wanted to go to Australia, and we will do it one day. It's definitely on our list. Interestingly, the last couple of years, when we've been planning family holidays, we sort of tick things off, and my daughter has said, "Oh, I'm not going to Australia because everything can kill you." Because obviously, living near London is so safe. Not.
Exactly.
So we've managed to sort of make her realise, and I think actually my friend's daughter, travelling there, and just the sheer beauty of the place. We've managed to talk her around, so she's quite up for it now. So yeah, I would absolutely love to. And I'm a massive fan of Australian MasterChef.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
So Melbourne would be absolutely on my list. I mean,
Yes.
it just looks amazing. I think I would just eat my way around the food, the seafood, and the fresh produce. I mean, it's mind blowing. It's just, it looks incredible. It looks absolutely incredible, and so diverse. Everywhere is different. And that's so true as well.
And the coffee, Melbourne's has a very big coffee culture. So, but then South Australia, where Ben is, has all the wineries and some, world-class wineries in the Barossa Valley. So yeah, we have so much to offer. But your daughter is right; there are lots of things that can kill you.
But I'm guessing statistically most of those are humans.
Probably.
So, everything's relative, isn't it? It's like
correct.
An alligator is not going to crawl out of your toilet and bite you. Yes, I might. And it's a dramatization, isn't it? You watch a nature program on Australia, and it's about everything can kill you.
Yes. I mean, there's no doubt.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
There are some dangerous things, but you can keep yourself pretty safe most of the time.
Yeah.
It's just like Summer Bay at my house. So, as you know, we have the One Book Club. We're wondering, do you have a word to the Either Side of Nhill Book Club listeners to share with them, or words of wisdom? Oh,
I'm not sure about wisdom, but I just thank you so much. It's so exciting, and I love it that you are so far away and you've got people reading my books. I mean, what I would like is what I'd love, if it's possible, is a picture of some of your members reading it, or I'd love to know what they're saying about it. Where did you find it? Where did you manage to get hold of that, and why that book? And also, how you started, and are you all sort of, in the same area, or are you spread, between the two areas? That's what I'd love to know.
Okay. The way I've got some, because we ask everyone to comment. Those that are listening, I'm holding up to the camera all the comments that people that have made. So I'll read a couple of those. I had to get Christy a Kris Kringle. We had for this show, we had a $6.50 limit, which is probably, like, what would that be? £4 or something like that. Maybe. Limit to actually get each other a Kris Kringle present. And Christy's very organised, and she had it sent to me in time for Christmas. I'm very slack, and I'm like, it was February. I'm like, oh my God, I still owe you a Kris Kringle. So I was getting a coffee actually at my local coffee shop, and I had to post a letter. So I went into the post office, and here in Australia, because the post offices are, they make virtually no money on postage now these days. So they have a lot of other stuff you can buy, books and toys and stationery and you name it, appliances. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I got to get Christy something. So I looked in this shelf when I was actually lining up to get to post my letter, and your book was there, and I'm like, I'm just going to buy this book. With all respect, I'd never heard of you. I hadn't heard of the book.
Amazing.
I just grabbed it, and I mailed this and some other stuff to Christy, and Christy read it, and she's like, okay, that's it. We're going to start a book club. So having no idea that it was part of a series, we could have read, we can see there's part of a series, but we started to send it to family and friends and and it turns out it's a cracker of a book. So
one of our listeners has taken a photo. I'm not sure if we shared that one online. But, she was meant to be working. She's like, I can't put this book down. I'm not getting back to work until I finish reading this book. So that was Trudy. So that was really
brilliant.
Cool. But and then it gets, Ben's got it back now, so then he's going to pass it on to, I'm not sure who's up next reading it, but I've got people
send it to Dad. Yeah,
I've already got people lined up ready to read it. So
you know how I said about my slackness before, Rachel? I'm supposed to have sent this off about 2 weeks ago. Hence, so some of the comments, we've asked people to give it a score. So most people have given it a very, very good score. Ash, that's my auntie, Christy's mum. She said she could not put this book down, so I put it up, as in you got 8 3/4 out of 10. My mum said this would make a great movie, and then Trudy, whose family, she said, Trudy, it brought back a love of reading. Suspense plus, I want more. So,
amazing.
Christy said, great crime novel, must read this. So everyone so far has really loved it. Yeah.
That is just so cool. It's amazing, and I love that is what makes it all worthwhile, because writing is a really solitary career. Sometimes I feel as though I'm going mad. If I don't speak to an adult for a day, but to get comments like that, and I get contacted on social media, and people share photos. Canada is another place where the Kelly series is really popular too. Wow. And obviously here in the UK, and it's just fabulous. And I love, if I go along to a book club or a signing or a launch or things like that, I just love meeting people, and before you know it, you're talking to people about Kelly, and it's as if she's there, it's as if she's real, and I think that's the best compliment, isn't it? I had two ladies come up to me at an event, and they said, oh, we didn't want to put our hands up in the Q&A because we were a bit worried that our question was silly. And I said, oh, please don't think that. What's your question? And they said, well, we've been to Pooley Bridge and we were just wondering where Kelly lives. So I had a picture on my phone for a friend who'd asked me exactly the same question of where I imagined she lived. And I showed them this picture and I said, look, it's over the bridge down there near the Jessie. And they went, oh, that's exactly where we thought it was. You know, and that, you can't ask for more, can you?
No, that's brilliant. It's
a
real to
compliment.
them. Yeah. That's so cool.
We've absolutely loved chatting with you this evening, Rachel. We really appreciate your time, but we do have one final question for you, and it's a question that we ask all of our VIPs that come on the podcast. It's very important. What is your standard fish and chip order, Rachel?
Well, it would be a large cod, and and a portion of chips. Yep. And the vinegar has to go onto the chips first, so the salt sticks to it. And then a huge portion of mushy peas. Do you have mushy peas?
We can get them in certain fish and chip shops that have a bit of an English bent to them, yes.
Right. Bright green, salty, mushy, amazing. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds unbelievable. A bit of salted cod, did you say, or just
no battered cod?
Battered cod. Okay.
The vinegar has to go on the chips first, so the salt stick to the vinegar on the chips.
Yum! I don't think I've ever had cod before. So our fish is generally flake, which is shark.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Well, we're a big cod nation because, you know, we're right next to the North Sea. So it's either cod or haddock for us. Haddock's a bit wetter. I like cod.
Well, you know those great big white sharks that kill everyone? We eat them. So
Isn't it? Oh, God, do we? Oh, no.
Just to balance it out a bit.
That's it. Just to show them who's boss, you know.
Sucked in. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. It's been such a pleasure meeting you, and we really love the fact that we're able to contact you, get in touch with you and chat with you and hear about what's coming up in the future for DI Kelly Porter. So thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Excellent. And thank you too to our listeners for tuning into this very special episode. It was so much fun. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram at Either Side of Nhill 3418 and of course Facebook at ESON Nhill. But until next time, it's bye for now.
See you later.